Good evening and thank you so much for joining us tonight on Family Matters. My name is Purity Museo. The World Health Organization has established that smoking or tobacco use is one of the greatest risks to human life right now. It has already claimed lives of over 8 million people globally. And as Kenya joins the world in celebrating this week for action on NCDs, which include diabetes, hypertension, tobacco use or smoking has also been established as one of the greatest risk factors to some of these ailments, even including cancers. So tonight we speak with the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance chairperson, Joe, and he'll be telling us why it's become so difficult to ban some of these products and implement those that have been banned already. So help me welcome our guest tonight, Joe Gitali, who is the chair KETCA. Thank you so much for your time, sir. And of course, joining us at a time when the talks on NCDs and tobacco use are on the rise and the linkage of tobacco use or smoking to COVID-19. Again, it's a big discussion around the world.
Thank you, Purity.
And let's talk about why tobacco use, because even the Minister of Health came out to caution people that it is one of the great risk factors to COVID-19 because of compromised immunity. Maybe you can bring us to speed on tobacco use or smoking and immunities. What is the relationship?
Thank you so much. Now, at this time, as you say, when we are fighting COVID-19, and as the ministry said so well, that tobacco use is one of the major risk factors, and it actually aggravates the COVID-19 situation. Now, when you talk about the immunity of the body, first of all, we know that when one uses tobacco, the immunity of the body goes down. That is the ability of the body to fight off infections and other ailments is normally compromised. For example, when one has got diabetes and uses tobacco, the body is unable to make use of insulin, and therefore one is likely to die. There is a very high risk of the situation getting out of hand. When one has got TB, for example, the situation can come out of hand because, tobacco compromises the respiratory system and the entire body immunity. So it becomes a really problem. And that means that infections by things like COVID-19 or any other viruses or bacteria, fungal infections can be very devastating. That is why the ministry comes up and says the immunity of the body is highly compromised when one uses tobacco. And as you have rightly said, even when it comes to NCDs, you find that the situation gets worse because the major risk factor when it comes let's say to cancer is actually tobacco. So once one uses tobacco, there is that danger of contracting these diseases, or if one is already having a condition, the condition is made worse. So that's why we must be very careful when we are talking about this, and especially at this time when we are fighting an ailment that targets the respiratory system, which is also the one that's normally targeted by tobacco products, especially smoking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And apart from the lung disorders, because the smoke goes directly to the lungs, what other diseases that are linked to tobacco use? Because 8 million people is quite a huge number smoking, claiming in a year.
Yeah, we talk about almost all the diseases, but then we single out especially cancer, all types of cancer, especially lung cancer. Up to 70% of lung cancers are caused by smoking all over the world. And then the rest of the cancers, we have throat cancer, cancer of the mouth, cancer of the esophagus and the stomach, every kind of cancer that you can think about. We have got diabetes, especially it's called type 2, which is also caused by smoking or made worse. If one could have maybe developed it 10 years to come, one develops it immediately. Then we have got things like the cardiac problems, which are also brought about by the same. You will get problems to do with hypertension. We have such cases that could have maybe delayed or couldn't have been very bad, but they are now blown out of proportion by smoking. So we have things even to do with early blindness. Somebody gets blind at a very early age just because of smoking. And so many of the diseases that we can talk about.
And where are we as a country in terms of the uptake of these tobacco products? Are we, would you say globally or even in Africa, we are among countries that are highly consuming some of these products?
Yeah, Kenya, especially south of the Sahara, is known to be the worst so far when it comes to this. We really use tobacco products, and the situation is getting out of hand, especially with the advent of the new products that are also tobacco products, the so-called smokeless tobacco, like the Lift, which has been brought by BAT and is being sold everywhere to everybody, including children. And yet is said is highly, highly addictive. It is a very bad product, but it's being sold everywhere with the permission from the Pharmacy and the Poisons Board, something that we are really against, but is being done. You've seen already the ministry has listed tobacco as an essential product. So the situation in Kenya is bad. We are really smoking, and still the government itself is helping people to enter smoking by listing this as an essential product. When this goes together with what was said by some fellows, that research has shown that those who smoke are not really infected by COVID-19, which was a lie. Then the situation gets out of hand. People go smoking thinking that they are now immunizing themselves against the virus. So it's a thing that we must really look into, especially where it comes to the products that are coming, like the oral nicotine products that are being brought by BAT, and even Philip Morris has said is going to do the same. These are things that cause addiction.
And what are some of the common used products in the country? And you talked about the newly introduced products as well.
Currently, when you look among the young people and those in universities and the colleges, they are now really using what we call Lift. This is a product that has been brought into the country by BAT, and the same BAT boasts of a very good market, such that it has also been allowed to build a factory to supply more and more because there is red market. So this is becoming a real problem, and very soon we are going to face a pandemic now, a nicotine pandemic in this country, where everyone wants to go for nicotine. Then the other one, as usual, is smoking. Cigarettes. Cigarettes are still all over, because this is the traditional thing that people have known, smokers all over the country have known, and they are still really, really smoking. And then we had come, we had controlled the consumption of shisha to some degree, but it's really now coming up again because of this confusion with even those in the Ministry of the Interior who are helping. You remember Honorable Matiang'i could really go around and banning those shisha, the equipment, the accessories. He used to ban them in public together with those ones used for betting. But nowadays, there is nothing like that. People have shifted to COVID-19 and then politics. So the situation has remained now very, very volatile, with everyone now who wants to do what they want to do doing it. So people have gone back to shisha, especially in Nairobi and Mombasa. This is a situation that we are really worried about. And then the e-cigarettes are also really getting a place especially among college students and even children now that they are at home, those of high school especially, they are now coming into this. So you find e-cigarettes are really getting market in Kenya. And although some talk about the other types of vapes, the vapors, as not having nicotine, but that is subject to debate. But then all these things, they are now becoming very attractive to young people, and especially because they are flavored to attract even children. You know, those who cheat that some of these things are used to make smokers to quit smoking by going to smokeless tobacco or going to vapes. They are just cheating us, because the way these things are made is in such a way that you can see clearly they are targeting children. And you know, once addicted, children cannot stop. They'll continue up to adulthood. Unfortunately, half of them will die early because of the same. And
you mentioned that neglect or concentrating on the fight against COVID-19 and neglecting other vices of what danger could this be to the country, considering that NCDs are the leading cause of death?
Yeah, we are going to have so many deaths now coming, because, you know, already cancer is claiming so many lives in Kenya. And tobacco itself, as we have said, kills up to 9,000 Kenyans every year. And then we have so many who are maimed. I mean, who, when you look at them, you find they have got various conditions. Some are even go through amputation of some of the parts of their bodies. Others are barren. We have so many health problems that come with that. And therefore, we are going to experience more death. We are going to have a greater burdens to bear in terms of health, and also losing a lot of labor hours. People are not going to be very productive. So the situation is bad, and because of this, you will find that it will have those multiplier effects, that when one thing happens, another one and another one. Somebody smokes, gets cancer, then you find others wasting a lot of time nursing this person, a lot of resources going into that, and therefore the country becoming economically poorer and poorer. So we have so many of these diseases that we talk about every other time getting out of control. Like now you see diabetes is really on the rise even among children. You'll hear about children having diabetes. You'll see even children now having cancer. And some of these cases are attributed to second-hand smoke, because some people smoke when their families are there, and especially at this time when they are saying stay at home. So even those who could go out there and smoke are now staying at home and therefore smoking when the family is there. You will find more and more young people now who are using Lyft, now having health problems, because even WHO has established that this smokeless tobacco has got a lot of health effects, especially on the brains of those who are developing. So we are going to have even problems with mental health, because the brains of young people are going to be affected very, very negatively. We are going to have very funny human beings in Kenya very soon, because as we consume these things that destroy the brains, they affect the growth and development of young people, then you can imagine the kind of society we are going to have.
Yeah. And during World Non-Tobacco Day in May, the Minister of Health called on Kenyans to restrain or restrict themselves from smoking. Whose responsibility is it? Is it a personal responsibility, like we are being called upon to wash our hands and stay safe from COVID-19? Is it that of anti-tobacco use organizations and alliances like yours or the government? Where does this lie?
It largely lies with every individual. But you see, before an individual makes a decision, we should have what we call informed decision. And therefore we ask ourselves, do these people get enough information about these things before they make informed decisions? And then we ask ourselves also, those victims, because I see them as victims, those who consume tobacco, especially children, Do they have the capacity to differentiate between what is good and what is bad? Why do we talk about minors? Why do we, when it comes to matters sex, for example, we talk about the age of consent? It must also apply to these tobacco products. So when it comes to minors, there is nothing like talking about individual responsibility. Here we talk about a society that is supposed to protect its own. And therefore, it is the duty of the government that it has got officers in place, people who are paid by taxpayers, to ensure that the law is enforced, to ensure that information goes to the people. These are the people that are supposed to ensure that the law that we passed, otherwise we couldn't be having the Tobacco Control Act in place if it was just let individuals decide and take care of themselves. We have the law, and then we have law enforcers. So it is the responsibility of the government of the day to ensure that the law is enforced, the vulnerable people in the society, like children, are taken care of. And therefore, if this is not done, it is entirely the government to blame, because we talk about law and order in the society, and this is enforced by the government that is there. And if that law is there, the Tobacco Control Act, we have got that is the Tobacco Control Act of 2007. We have got the Tobacco Control Regulations of 2014. We have got the Shisha Ban of 2018. And we have other laws that also talk about health. They must be enforced by those who are paid by taxpayers to do so. Otherwise, people sit back and start talking about individual responsibility. Then you wonder, what individual responsibility will a child of 10 years exercise when the child is being attracted to a product that is harmful by a tobacco company that has made it in a way that it will attract that child? The government must play its role to ensure that those vulnerable in the society are protected.
And where do you think is the gap? Why do you, what would be the reason for example, having banned shisha but it's still being used in the country? Is it the problem to do with the law enforcers? Where exactly is the gap on the part of the government or even the Ministry of Health?
Yeah, it is the law enforcers. And by the way, if you look well and you talk to those who know these things, like the officers of the Nairobi City County Health Section, especially those dealing with tobacco control, they will tell you that some of these places where shisha is actually sold, where fellows go to consume shisha and they pay, these places are owned by the untouchables. Fellows that are so powerful in the society such that it is not possible for even law enforcers to touch them. Because you know these law enforcers keep on talking about maybe some other authority above them that is in charge. So when they go there, they want to close down some of these premises, they are told, no, stop what you are doing. Then they have nothing to do.
There is also the issue of the listing of some of the tobacco products as essentials in the fight against COVID-19, and health officials would argue that use of alcohol-based sanitizers is one of the necessities in the fight against COVID-19, but you're also against that. Maybe you can tell us why you're against the listing of some of the tobacco products as essentials in the fight against COVID-19, and how best should that should have been handled by the Ministry of Health.
It is a bad message that is being sent. And even those who have ill intentions, like those who deal in tobacco products, they will use that to lure people to buy. They'll tell them, you see, when the government has listed tobacco as an essential product, so you forget about those that have been talking about tobacco negatively. This is now the time to consume this thing. So it is very wrong for the government to have done that. The least it could have been could just have been maybe to leave it the way it is. Otherwise, it is supposed even to have gone further to ban or to suspend tobacco products from our markets for a while, the way South Africa has done. This is because when you look at Kenya, you will find that in spite of there being the Tobacco Control Act, which bans the selling of single sticks, This is still the thing that's happening. Single sticks are being sold everywhere, even on the streets. And therefore, those who are handling these single sticks are the same people who handle money. They touch money, they touch the sticks, and they touch this area that is put on the mouth. So they touch the sticks, they give to the consumers. Those consumers are also holding money and then also handling the tobacco sticks. And that, you know what that means? Because this money is moving from one person to another. And then it is being exchanged like that, and then those that are using, touching the money are touching the cigarettes. And then those who even smoke normally share these cigarettes. You know, smokers are very generous. They're just like those who drink, you know, those who drink can share even a cup, especially the traditional liquor. But the thing they can never share is money. They don't give each other financial assistance, but they can give you the amount, any amount of beer, because they want to kill each other. So that is the problem that we have.
And should all tobacco products be banned, or do we have some that are less harmful? What exactly, as an alliance, are you advocating to be banned?
No, we are saying, okay, we are not even using the real word banned, because sometimes it becomes a bit difficult. Some will come telling us, you know, we shall have so many of the side effects, the withdrawal symptoms, there will be another problem in the country. But we are saying they should be heavily regulated, such that we shouldn't have minors having access to these products. We shouldn't have non-smokers being attracted to them in one way or another. We shouldn't have a lot of supply such that even those who are using them use them at will. They should be actually regulated so that we reduce supply, we reduce demand. And this can be through education, can be through regulations, can be through taxation. We take every measure to ensure that we are reducing supply, we are reducing demand for the good of the country. So we don't have those that we can say should just be there, no, because they are all leading to the same. As I've said, for example, even if you use the smokeless tobacco, which is said to be less harmful compared to combustible tobacco, the problem is still there that after one is used or is addicted, one will not care the kind of products they are using. And even those that are termed as safer, they are not safe. They are only safer to a small percentage, but they have got other problems. Like what I've said, that any form of tobacco normally affects the brain. So we cannot allow young people to use these other ones that are so attractive to them, like what we are terming as the oral nicotine products. The Lift is an example that is being sold by BAT in the country, because it will still destroy the brains. Even if it doesn't, it will not cause cancer of the lungs, but it's going to affect the brain. We don't want to have people who have got mental problems in the country. So every tobacco product is a bad thing. It is supposed to be avoided. It is supposed to be heavily regulated and heavily taxed by the government of Kenya.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there was a time KETCA wrote and said, complained of the industry's interference in the control of tobacco use in the country. How is that?
When the industry talks so good of the government, then we ask ourselves, what has made the government take too long without this fund being in place? We conclude that it is because the government is reluctant to get money from the tobacco industry. And why should it be so reluctant when we so much need money for these operations? The Tobacco Control Board is ineffective, is not working because it doesn't have resources. We have the Tobacco Control Division that is not having resources to do anything. They are not visible anywhere. And yet these are the organs that are supposed to be out there educating the people, carrying out research, advising the cabinet secretary, but we don't hear of them. When you talk to them, they say no resources. Then when you go further, you ask, and why are there no resources? And yet we are supposed to be getting 2% of what the tobacco industry makes every year, going into tobacco control fund. The fund is not operationalized. Why is it not? There is no answer. That is in progress. It's in the progress. We say that is already tobacco industry interference. There must be something wrong.
You are winding up. As you wind up, it's the week for action on the non-communicable diseases. Are you stepping up your campaign on no tobacco use in the country, or what action are you taking as an alliance?
Yeah, we are stepping up this by way of passing information and even talking to the government that more should be done, and there is no government that shall say it wants to bring down the number of those being affected by non-communicable diseases if it is not taking measures to ensure that there is tobacco control in the country. So tobacco control is first. We are talking to the government, we are passing information to the public, and we are very grateful that the media has been very instrumental in this. And we are very grateful to you and the KBC for the work that is going on, because this is one way of reaching the public, of reaching the government, so that when we control tobacco use in the country, then we are addressing these issues of mental health, we are addressing cancer, we are addressing diabetes, we are addressing almost every form of non-communicable condition of health in the country. And we are very, very grateful that this is happening, and we are going on.
That should have been the parting shots, because we are winding up the show?
Yeah, I think that's what I should say, and I call upon everybody to join us, individuals and the government, and we work together. We don't compromise, because health is wealth. We don't have to have sick people when we can avoid it. So we come together, and as we have said, you cannot pretend to fight COVID-19 if you are not involved in tobacco control. This is one thing that nobody should cheat us, and anybody doing something else and pretending that tobacco control is not important, that is a friend to COVID-19 and an enemy to the people.
All right, Mr. Gitali, thank you so much for your time and speaking to us on the show tonight on smoking and COVID-19. We wish you all the best in the fight against smoking and tobacco use in the country.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to the end of our program tonight. Thank you so much for watching and for your time. The key word during this week, when Kenya is joining efforts with other countries to act on NCDs and tobacco use being one of the risk factors to non-communicable diseases, is accountability. Stay accountable and stay away from smoking. My name is Purity Museo. Enjoy the rest of our programming, and God bless.